Today I'm going to do a slightly different review. I will provide an in-depth account of my experience during the initial days of using the Creality K1 Max. I will discuss the problems I encountered, the solutions I implemented, and ultimately I will deliver my verdict on whether this printer is best suited for beginners or professionals. Additionally, I will compare it to other printers currently available in the market, highlighting the significance of possessing extensive knowledge to ensure optimal utilization of 3D printing technology. If I were you, I would stay tuned until the very end of this video, whether you are an experienced 3D printer or if you are a beginner, an enthusiast, you want to buy your first 3D printer and you are considering the K1 or K1 Max from Creality. Stay tuned to this video, come with me. Hello everyone, this video was translated by an artificial intelligence and I'm doing this because of time, because I'm not actually having time to create content in Portuguese and English. And you can help me change this reality. You can help me clicking on the thumbs up button right below here, and you can help me commenting this video. This is the most important action you can do here, because commenting the video shows the algorithm that this content is relevant, not only for you, but for other people like you that loves useful content. So share this video, click on the thumbs up and comment, because this will help me a lot and that will indicate to me that I can dedicate more time creating content like this that can help people like you. Thank you. Let's go to the content. In these past few weeks, I have conducted numerous tests on my new K1 Max. I performed multiple tests. I will display numerous photos here, but this is only a fraction of the tests I conducted. The table in front of me is filled with various pieces of printing, calibration, and parts that I have been placing in my printer, both for the purpose of calibrating and testing and so on, in order to observe the final result. So you better stay tuned. Subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up, because all these tests here weren't cheap, okay? I've already spent, roughly speaking, I've spent about 2 kilograms of filament there, because there were many tests, many mistakes, many problems, including that caused some catastrophes and even problems. The document is currently on the printer, but I will make a video exclusively for you addressing the issue of printer tuning configuration in detail. And for those who are beginners, for enthusiasts, for those starting with 3D printing, don't be scared, because this is one of the most surprising parts of this printer, the software and everything that comes with the K1, and that makes life much easier for beginners. But already leave your like there, already subscribe, help me there to promote this video, to share this video with the guys, to help erase the filaments, because it was a lot of filament. So let's go. In the first video I made about the K1, I did the unboxing, okay? Then I made another video of her settings, assembling her, putting the display, doing the first config in the config assistant. It's amazing how simple it is for you to do that. So positive point for K1 and K1 Max in this sense. For Creality, the process creator, her config assistant is incredibly simple and its self-configuration, so you can make a first impression right away, is something surprising that I haven't seen in any other printer on the market. And I'm talking about the reviews and videos that I've been following over the years, because I've been using my Prusa, manufactured by 73D, which I bought 9 years ago. This first contact, this first experience is really impressive. But let's go talking about the printer itself, okay? Concerning the structure of the printer, it is an extremely well made, very well finished structure. Creality took great care with the issue of details. 30x 30x 30 print area in the case of K1 Max, okay? Blindex glass, right? Tempered glass on the front and top with acrylic on the sides, all of which are smoked. Super beautiful, truly impressive finish, gives the feeling of a premium printer, okay? Regarding mechanics, let's proceed. The mechanical aspect is as follows. The table component and the extruder component are highly efficient. They heat up rapidly, so you don't need to wait for an extended period of time until the printing commences and everything. She quickly raises the temperature and starts printing without any major issues. What I witnessed here, the entire electronic component of it is fully customized, all created specifically for the printer, all optimized for the printer. No workaround, okay?
You're buying a printer there with the name of a professional printer. When you open it, there's an Arduino Mega inside using the shield you buy from China, making adaptations, and you pay a fortune for a makeshift thing. No other option available, just this printer with hidden modifications. She is completely customized. All pieces are made, optimized for her to work with her and to work in the best way. She has excellent ventilation. It is a closed printer, recommended for those who will print materials that require higher temperatures and even for materials that deform or can detach from the table. Due to temperature fluctuations, winds and such, everything else that can affect printing, such as ABS for example. But still, it is very well ventilated. She has a cooler on the side, which helps to cool the table. She has a cooler on the back with an activated charcoal filter, which helps to push the air from inside to outside, but without releasing the smell of the print into the environment. In addition to ventilation, there is a logic board located on the print head. Moreover, there is also a cooler up there that is responsible for cooling, which helps to cool down the printing process more quickly and efficiently. So only in the print head there are two coolers. That's very cool. The negative point of this is that it makes a lot of noise. It makes a damn loud noise in the environment where she is. If you are going to print in ABS, you have the option to turn off cooling. Despite by default it comes with ABS cooling. At first I was even surprised. In the initial tests I deactivated the cooling system, the coolers, but later for the purpose of conducting a test I decided to print ABS with the cooling system enabled, and to my surprise it turned out that using the cooling system with ABS had a positive impact, enhancing the print quality. Tests I had done on my other printer using ventilation for ABS printing were a complete disaster, but in their case it works very well. When it comes to PLA, PETG and other filaments that require cooling to improve quality and layer adhesion, the printer effectively activates all the coolers, resulting in a considerable amount of noise being generated during the printing process. So I don't recommend that you have it inside an office where you will be doing other activities. Okay, this is a drawback. Due to noise, it seems it was not well thought out and falls short of expectations. I am aware that there are coolers similar to these ones that are much quieter, but in her particular case, she does not spare any effort to be loud and noisy. Regarding electronics, I've already mentioned it's all customized, so I found it really cool for the fact that it is targeted. The electronics were designed and targeted for functionality, for how the printer should work. However, I found it a bit strange to have printed circuit boards there in the printhead part. The integrated circuits were there. I have witnessed problems, for example, in notebooks where the ICs simply detach from the board due to overheating caused by excessive temperatures. But I don't know exactly what the durability level of that is. I will know over time as I use it, but it's strange for that plate to be close to the extruder that reaches 300 degrees. I am curious to know if the tin will continue to remain well adhered to the printed circuit board, but only time will be able to tell. Despite having great ventilation, it possesses two coolers in that location specifically to preserve this temperature disparity so that one does not experience the heat emitted from the extrusion head during the extrusion process. The temperature is well contained, primarily due to its utilization of a hot end, a novel ceramic-based model which provides significantly enhanced thermal insulation. This insulation serves the dual purpose of maintaining the hot end at the correct printing temperature and preventing any leakage or escape of this temperature from the hot end to the other components. So I found that part there very interesting, especially because I had to dismantle that part there because I had problems, which I will talk about later, okay? Regarding functionalities, okay, I'm still discussing the firmware on the printer, not the computer software yet. One part that left me somewhat disappointed, let's say, regarding the printer's operation there, is the functionality of manual extrusion and retraction. Every time you go to extrude or retract, you click on the small button and you have to wait for it to heat up the hot end, even though it heats up rapidly. But the issue is that if you're in that moment of making an adjustment, inserting the filament, desiring to extrude, sometimes the filament gets stuck. You want to go back and such. Every time you click on the manual extrusion or retraction, it heats up. But as soon as it finishes, it begins to cool down the hot end immediately. And this part kind of bothers a little when you're there trying to make things work or testing, adjusting, okay? So this bothers a little. In addition, of course, to the issue of the extruder, manual extrusion and retraction, Being in a separate area from the other card positioning commands, I thought Creality could consolidate all on one screen. It'd be easier to operate on a daily basis when making fine adjustments. There are still some adjustments to be made, for example the part of the cart and table movement. You cannot move it to that position immediately after turning it on without first organizing everything and resetting the positioning. This will allow you to lower the table for more space or raise it to facilitate movement or cleaning underneath, among other things. I had the thought that this particular part could be left in the pre-memorized last position so that you would have the ability to manually adjust these positions without the need to constantly return to the home position, but it is actually a small detail that requires adjustment in the firmware. In terms of its cloud functionality, it offers cloud functionality, integrates with the cloud, and allows you to control the printer using your mobile application. What I did not like very much was the fact that in order for the printer to function in this model, you actually need to share every single thing. In other words, everything that goes up to your printer will go through the cloud. It will be synchronized with the cloud. Not that this is a significant issue for roboticists, for instance, and so on, but I perceive this as a somewhat inconvenient situation for individuals who utilize it in a company for prototyping and who have privacy contracts concerning the projects of the clients that you are currently going through. But as long as this function remains disabled, your parts, your components, and so on will not be sent to Creality's cloud. Once again, not that this is a problem. I didn't get to read the Creality contract regarding the use of cloud and privacy terms. However, this type of situation caused me some discomfort. I believe that it could be more indirect or controllable, this matter of sharing, than what you are sending to print. Still in the firmware there was that little bug with the e-commerce, but it has already been fixed. This indicates that Creality is genuinely striving to make corrections, adjustments and enhancements to the printer, particularly in relation to firmware. In addition, I had a little problem there with the issue of artificial intelligence, which has the LiDAR sensor along with the camera to detect anomalies in printing. And at various times they are printing the parts, it detected anomalies in printing when there were no anomalies, everything was normal, working fine. But she interrupted the printing and issued this alert that I'm going to show you on the screen, and I had to click on continue. 10 seconds later she issued the alert again, paused the printing, I had to click on continue until I decided to go there and disable this pause function for anomalies. Then she only issues the alert but continues printing. I'm sure this will improve. AI is a type of machine learning at present. Currently there is no fully autonomous artificial intelligence system, so this machine learning will only be improved, it will only evolve with use. The more people are using it, the more data is sent to Creality's servers, and they learn at which moments that detection was correct, at which moments it was incorrect, and the software learns and evolves over time. And for sure, it will reach a point where it will really be doing it accurately. Currently, she has these inconsistencies. However, there were other instances when she detected correctly, particularly in the first layer. She detected correctly and prevented me from wasting kilograms of filament on a print that would definitely fail, and I wasn't paying attention to her. I had merely set it to print and she detected that it was incorrect, so she promptly stopped the printing process to avoid wasting filament. Positive for Creality here, but it still needs improvement. I know machine learning takes time and requires data for optimal performance, so I know that in the future this will be top. Let's discuss the software, okay? It's easy to use with an intuitive interface. There is for Mac, there is for Windows, and there is for Linux, okay? And from what I could compare here, at least the version for Mac and the version for Windows, they are identical, okay? They are very similar. He is very easy to use, very intuitive and very focused. And there's a tip for you. He is very targeted towards people who have less experience with 3D printing. And then he will do a lot of things automatically. He will perform parameter compensation, he will make adjustments and calibrations of certain aspects. Units there of speed, temperature and everything else. It will make some of these adjustments automatically in order to compensate for this and make the print come out with better quality and at the best possible speed. But I will go into some deeper details in a little while. Hold on, hang in there. Besides that, he has some bugs there, okay? But I'm sure these are things that will be fixed. So there are some moments, for example, when he loses intermittent contact with the printer, right? You're there observing the printer's telemetry, so occasionally it enters a loop of losing connection every X seconds, then it reconnects. I have faith that those are small socket connection adjustments that will be improved gradually over time. Moreover, it possesses a functionality that is somewhat counterproductive in its nature and overall effectiveness. So every time you turn off the printer and turn it on again, it will get an IP from your network's DHCP and get a different IP. She can't remember the IP she had before, and you also can't set a fixed IP at this time, in this firmware version, okay? So if in the future this is updated, remember this and don't curse me in this video here, because at this moment you can't set a fixed IP. Every time you turn it off and on, you have to go to the devices section and ask to add the printer again in your devices section. If you sync with the cloud, it will automatically detect and put it there. They could potentially address this issue to make it native on the network, since it can be found there, enabling automatic functionality for improved user experience. Another small irritating aspect for those who already have experience with 3D printing and unexpectedly come across Creality Print, which is the name of this software, is the fact that it divides filament configuration and print configuration into separate profiles. In other software you have this separation. You have printer separation, filament separation, and printing. You have these three parameters, but when you save a profile, this profile is saved with all these characteristics. So every time you select that profile, you know that all of this is inside. In the case of Creality Print, when you save your print profile, it is only for the print profile. So if you forget to select the filament profile at the top, as I will show you now, basically what it does is that when you select your print profile and change the filament, it overwrites characteristics of your profile that you had already defined. It's cool because you can have a print profile for a type of piece and want to print it in different materials just by changing the material profile. However, there are multiple characteristics of printing a specific piece that you would like to parameterize based on the material it is made of. In different materials, you will have different printing speeds to achieve the quality you want. And in this case, when you change the filament there in the selection menu, you end up losing the characteristics of that printing profile. Instead of following the print profile, he will take it from the filament. This is kind of confusing, okay? If you have a Creality there, even if it's an Ender or another one, and you use Creality's slicing software and you use this functionality and you think differently, put it here in the comment here the reason why, because you like it to be this way. I didn't like it very much. I prefer to create a profile and know exactly that this profile is configured for a certain type of filament, for a certain type of print, and when I select it, I am sure of the characteristics it will bring. If you select the profile and forget to change the filament type, it makes a mess. So you have to be careful about that. Furthermore, the cloud part, from the cloud services, you have gigabytes of hosting there, you have services inside, you have a series of components and parts and 3D models that you can download from the cloud version of Creality. For buyers of K1 or K1 Max, Creality offers free 1-year premium subscription. That's cool, you can explore things there. I haven't had time to look yet, but I can make a video later reviewing this issue of cloud functionalities so you can know if it's worth it or not. If you want a video, leave it in the comment and I'll plan to do it. Ease of use, okay? I'm going to get my list here because there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about and I don't want to lose the order here. So let's go. Assembly of it, super easy. Okay, her manual is well organized, showing step by step, and it already comes with the toolkit that has all the tools you need, not only to assemble it, but also to maintain it when you need to. So in this part, Creality, 10 out of 10. Okay, 100% first setup, simply ridiculously easy for you to do. The first setup of it already comes with the filament there with Hyper PLA from Creality. You put it in, it already starts printing and it prints with quality. So this first experience, this first contact with the printer is impressive. It is sensational. So note 11 there for Creality, the top cover of it, which is a cover made of tempered glass. It bothers a little the fact that it is not attached. It does not have a hinge. So you have to be careful, you have to get used to it, and you have to have a space next to the printer for when you are, for example, printing PLA on a very hot day, because its chamber will heat up. And sometimes her camera If the print is too long, printing during the day in a hot environment, it may not cool the piece properly due to being completely closed. So you have to remove that lid from there so that the hot air can escape from the printer and circulate more easily. She could have a hinge there for you to keep it on top of the printer, but she doesn't, so be careful with that because it can end up bothering or dropping. I found this part a little uncomfortable. One very annoying part is the fact that the filament support is behind it. In terms of usability, this is a nightmare. For first-time viewers, it may seem irrelevant due to the type like, oh, because it enhances the printer's aesthetics as it becomes a small square cabinet and the filament, which is unattractive, is hidden behind it. It is a terrible design. The filament does not always come well wound. When it is time to pull, it gets tangled, it may be stuck, and you have to give it a little adjustment to allow it to be pulled by the extruder. You can't see back there. If she is not in the same environment as you, you will only notice that the filament is jamming because she starts to crackle. When it comes to messing with it, you have to bend over behind the printer to be able to mess with it. When it comes to putting on and taking off, changing the filament, it is very difficult because the bouldering tube is located at the back. You cannot see it. You have to bend over to reach and see the bouldering tube. Keep one hand on bouldering, other hand on filament, keep pushing. When filament reaches extruder, you have another issue with the process. Because the bouldering tube there, it does not stay at 90 degrees with the extruder input, it stays halfway. So many times, I think 90% of the times I had to hold the tube on top of the extruder with my hand so that it would enter inside the extruder. At the same time, you are pushing the filament back there. It brings a lot of discomfort when you change the filament and when you keep the printer running smoothly. The other point is that because this printer has a direct extruder, that here the filament traction is in the extruder itself and not outside the printer. Highlighting here, I am a proponent of direct extrusion because it prints flexible filaments much more effectively. She experiences reduced pressure variation in relation to the filament, particularly during filament retraction, when printing and the printing process is faster. So I have a strong preference for the direct extruder. However, the filament end sensor is located at the rear of the printer and is positioned exactly in the middle of the path that connects the extrusion head and the filament input at the back of the printer, which makes it a bit inconvenient. This is a problem because there may be a filament end sensor, but if the filament runs out, you are left with no filament in the middle of the way. So until the new filament that you are inserting there reaches the extrusion head and is naturally pulled, you need to keep pushing the new filament until it reaches the extrusion head. And once again, filament input is at the back of printer. So it's totally unfeasible there, okay? This usability problem in this context was extremely poor. The entrance could have a simpler latch for you to detach it when carrying out maintenance on the printer, but this is a highly superficial aspect. The printing table, man, the printing table is top notch, you know? There's nothing to say. PEI, new material used in tables with magnetic adhesion, is practical and offers convenience. Highly recommended. Do you need to add adhesive? Need. I conducted tests without adding adhesive using PLA and it was satisfactory, especially with small parts such as the test cube. Some other small parts also adhere well without any problem, even without adhesive. But after a few dozen prints, that area of PEI there where the material made contact, it starts to lose adhesion. And you have two options. You can wash it, but it will eventually become worn out over time. It's like a Teflon, but it's different. He is for 3D printing, but it's like a layer of Teflon. And he keeps wearing out. If you use a spray glue, there are some people who use hairspray. I haven't had good experiences using lacquer in 3D printing, but I'm using the National 3D glue. Bought for experiment, it's sensational. In addition, of course, to leave a finish on the bottom here of the piece, that man is sensational. You rarely see that this was produced using a 3D printer. It is incredibly smooth, isn't it? So different from you using glue stick there to do printing. But in the first video, there was even a last-minute correction that I made there, which is the story of the spatula that comes with the kit. So the first thing we do when we look at that spatula and you think like this, oh, it's to release the piece from the printing table. Do not do that, okay? Please. As I said, Prince Edward Island is like a layer of Teflon on a pan, and you don't use metal utensils in your Teflon pan precisely because you don't want to scratch the Teflon. Ali is exactly the same, alright? You do not make use of a metal spatula in that particular part. The brim is this little part down here, this little overhang, because since it's a very thin print, it won't adhere to the table. So we add this extra layer here, see, which provides more adhesion area on the printer to secure the piece. So this little part here of the brim can be scraped off with that spatula here from the edge of the print, I prefer to do it with a utility knife, okay? Give me more accuracy there at work. But you can also use that spatula because it has a sharp tip. However, it is important to never use that pen on the table, as it may cause scratches and damage to the blade that is used for printing. And when you damage it, it will have less grip and you will essentially destroy that piece. You'll need to replace it by another one, so that spatula isn't for removing the print. The print comes out easily. You fold it, including the blade, it's flexible, so you folded the blade, the piece comes out by itself. Very easy. In terms of detail, I still have not been able to eliminate ringing or ghosting, as people commonly refer to it. However, I am confident that this issue can be resolved by making adjustments to the acceleration and print speed. I want to emphasize my dedication to achieving a high level of printing excellence as I am striving to create a configuration video for you. Nevertheless, I find it challenging to surpass this level in everyday real-life situations when using 3D printing technology. I will display the photos in more intricate detail on the screen for you to carefully examine the print quality. I'm striving for preciousness to reach the maximum and test the printer's full potential and capabilities. But the quality that I have been able to extract from it so far, once again I will show you up close, is already something impressive, very rare to see in a filament printer. Remember guys, it's like this. Here I even put an item talking about the maximum speed of this printer. The maximum printing speed, that is what it seems like when we are talking about aero modeling, right? And you'll talk to someone who's never done aero modeling, then you say, oh, I fly Hellas. Their first question is, how high will he go? Can you drive 5 kilometers, radio reach? Man, at 5 kilometers you can't even see the model airplane, so there's no reason for the radio to reach a distance of 5 kilometers if you can't see the model airplane to know where you're going and everything else. So 3D printing is the same thing. How fast does she print? Everything is relative. How fast she prints will depend on the quality of the filament, not only on the printer but also on the quality of the filament you are using. If it is a filament that has good fluidity, if it is a filament that can change state quickly, then it is not just a matter of, oh, it is a good filament, it has good fluidity. Yeah, but it takes a while for it to change from solid state to liquid or pasty state in the case of printing. She can't be printed too fast because there's not enough time for the filament to change state while it's passing through the extruder, even if the extruder has temperature, even if the printer has speed. Multiple factors, moisture in filament, climate issue, environmental issue, and more contribute to filament degradation. So there are multiple factors there. However, one thing I was unable to accomplish was obtaining the bench, which is included the G-code, which is already prepared within it, and has a printing time of approximately 14 minutes. It takes 14 to 16 minutes to print. I couldn't obtain Creality's own bench, the 3D object, and generate a new G-code that can print the bench at the same speed as the pre-existing G-code. The printing process requires generating a new G-code file for the bench object. I am unaware of the changes and the reasons for Creality's lack of clarity. For example, the settings used to make the print, the generation of the G-code, and the speed of that guy are not known to me. I also consider this negative because it lacks any industrial secrets. On the contrary, as a customer who has purchased the printer, I would like to know the specific tunnels and fine adjustments that were made to generate the SG code. This information would allow me to apply the same techniques to other prints. However, I have been unable to achieve the optimal configuration, and it takes me 22 minutes to generate the bench G code again by printing it. Considering that the original prints from 14 to 16 mins, negative point for Creality on this one. Come on Creality, open up the G-code config for the bench so we can replicate it. In all these tests here, I had several problems. Obviously, I said in the first video, I said I am going to heat up my head, I am going to get stressed with this printer until I can understand it. So I had filament that shattered inside the extruder, I had filament that the extruder could not pull. It crushes the filament because it is so soft. It crushes the filament and slips, it does not go forward. I had filament that did not enter the printer, I had filament that entered and clogged my hot end. I had to disassemble the entire print head to be able to remove the piece that got stuck in my hot end. And several other problems that I will talk about in the next video, which is the tuning video, where I will be explaining about these things and about the problems and filaments anyway. However, on the whole, I was able to calibrate and make adjustments relatively easily without encountering significant difficulties. And I was able to extract prints with qualities as good as the quality I was able to achieve using Creality's own filament. I was able to have some prints here that I even achieved a better quality if we compare, and I will compare it in the next video for you to see. I achieved a better quality with the National filament than I did with the Creality filament. In the next video you will know how it was. And what about the slicer? You are saying that you are using Creality's own slicer, but I already do 3D printing. I use Simplify, I use Cura, I use Prusa. No problem, there are already profiles there for Simplify, there is already a profile for Cura. The Cura's is still a community profile, but the guys are already working on it. But you can use any of them as long as you adjust the parameters. Of course, there are some functionalities that are proprietary to Creality regarding the K1, regarding the printing speed, extrusion, and everything else, and you have to input that within the parameters. Some things are not available in these software, in these other slices, and if you want to use them, you will have to input it in the G-code so that it can be used. But in general, you have the ability to utilize it. You can generate your G-codes through other slices and send the G-code directly to the printer via the web or via an application or through the web, and send your own G-code there in order to bypass certain limitations or customizations that Creality imposes on you within their slicing software. Let's go to the problems. No, I will leave the problems to talk about in the next video. In the setup video, I will talk about the more specific problems I faced, because there's no point in rushing, and this video is already getting too long. I'd like to discuss now the people I would recommend this printer for. Is this printer suitable for beginners? Yeah, it's for beginners. Even though I have gone through the problems I have gone through these problems because I am the kind of guy who already has a 3D printer, and I tried to do things there, of course, trying to exceed the printer's limit, testing the printer's limits and seeing where it was capable of reaching, especially with the National filaments that have some filaments that unfortunately cannot withstand the printing volume, cannot withstand the extrusion volume for which this printer was designed. I went through some problems because I tried to exceed certain boundaries, but it is easy to assemble, easy to configure, easy to operate. Anyone can buy a printer like this, and yes, they can start printing. And you can download parts from Thingiverse, Tang, Creality Cloud itself. There are a lot of websites out there with various models and ready-made things that you can download, or you can go there and learn how to use some 3D editing software with the tutorials and start creating your own utility components and projects and everything else. But the printer itself, its operation is ridiculously simple. It's impressive how easy it is for you to use. In my point of view, it is reliable in the sense that you can just leave it, send the print, release the impression, knowing it'll turn out well if properly calibrated for the specific filament type and brand, ensuring a good and complete outcome in the end. After successfully completing that task, the level of reliability of this 3D printer, man, is truly astonishing. Unmatched compared to the other printer I had. Additionally, her software, if you are a novice, is acceptable. Utilizing her software prevents you from making a plethora of mistakes, alright? Because the software possesses multiple automatic compensations. So if you exaggerate in a certain parameter, the software itself already compensates for that parameter in other parameters that can damage the printer, force it, or cause some type of problem or damage to the printer. I think this part is really cool for the guys who are starting out, but I'm going to talk about it in relation to those who are more experienced. You mentioned that you had to disassemble the print head there. Did you have to unclog it, the hot end, the extruder, and everything else? I'll go into more details in the next video. I needed to unclog my extruder. There is a video from Creality itself showing step by step how to disassemble the print head, which connectors you disconnect, where you will do it, what you release, which screw you release. So you have a tutorial ready that you can go through and follow easily even without the video. It is practically intuitive and very easy for you to disassemble, remove, unclog and assemble again. At this level we have not reached the scale of the Lost in Space series where the guy requests a 14mm wrench from the computer and it instantly produces it. We haven't reached the point of instant wrench production, but we're making significant progress. From 0 to 10, we are reaching an 8th scale of Lost in Space. Soon there will be a generative AI for 3D objects, where you will say what you want and it will generate an STL for you. Regarding the price, in my opinion like this, printer equipped with LiDAR, table leveling, both mechanical and LiDAR technology. Hot end at 300 degrees, printing bed that reaches 100 degrees and has that little magnetic thing there with the PEI and such for you to easily remove the piece from the print. Anomaly detector in printing with all this in the same printer, and it is still a closed printer, so you have the capability to print all kinds of filaments, man. The price is extremely favorable. It's excellent compared to several other market options with several options of 3D printers that have the same characteristics. It's cheap, it's the most affordable in terms of price, and for me, it has all these requirements of you getting a printer and start printing. Obviously, if you're the type who likes to build the 3D printer and customize and mess with everything, this is not the printer for you, that's a fact. It's a printer for those who want a printer to print things and not for you to mess with the printer, okay? I'll likely do a review in about 6 months to let you know how it was after 6 months of use for durability and everything else, since I can't attest to that currently. But she is a highly recommended printer for beginners and those unfamiliar with 3D printing, as she will handle practically all aspects of the process. And for professionals, Wesley? Okay, let's go. The fact that her software makes many decisions for you is annoying. I spoke as a beginner before because if I was starting today, I would love to have a printer like that for those features. Due to my existing printing addictions, I have utilized a variety of slicing software throughout the years, adjusting settings on my printer, implementing upgrades, and engaging in other related activities. Now, I'll speak as someone with addictions, okay? Like any pro in 3D printing, vices are inevitable. It's frustrating that the software keeps correcting for me, but Creality released the version of Clipper they used, which they customized. They released it as open source. So if you wish to obtain it there, personalize it and upload it there. Alright? I don't think it's necessary, okay? I think it's more a matter of habit, okay? To learn how the printer works and how you can tune it. And that's what I'm going to show in the next video, showing how to set it up and reach a level of quality. Honestly, from this point on, you don't need to go any further in terms of customization of the Clipper, but still, if you want, it's there to think about. But for me, that it was annoying at first to mess with the parameterizations and do the test and see that nothing changed. I would change the speed and the printing time wouldn't change. Sometimes I would increase the printing speed and it would increase the printing time instead of decreasing it. Why? Because to increase the speed, she compensated for that in terms of extrusion volume, in terms of temperature. She was making these calibrations and ended up taking more time to print at the highest speed than at the lowest speed. This part at the beginning ends up being slightly annoying, but after you realize that it was not designed for you to spend excessive time fine-tuning and adjusting 50 different parameters until you achieve the right balance, you comprehend that it features an automated parameterization specifically to save you time and spare you from the need to overthink. This gradually becomes less irritating until you reach the stage where you reflect and exclaim, if only it had been like this 9 years ago when I began, it would have been significantly easier. On the other hand, ease of printing. I don't know if you work with 3D Farm, how much time you spend looking at the printer and monitoring your printers for check if they're going, if impressions are right, etc. Probably if you are a good professional there, you are not spending that much time because you have your printers very well regulated. In terms of cost, due to the fact that it is a closed printer, it is one of the cheapest closed printers on the market. In consideration there, I would consider some factors, which is the fact that if you have a farm, you have several identical printers, Even to facilitate maintenance, if you go there and buy spare parts, you can buy 3 extruders there. You need to buy only 3 extruders of the same model because all your printers are the same for a farm. I don't know if it would be worth it. The cost benefit is already present for an individual who desires to utilize it professionally for prototyping, so I will inform you of that. It is an excellent acquisition. The level of print quality of it leaves nothing to be desired. Those professional industrial filament printers, they will have a very similar quality to this one. For those who work with small prototyping, doing parts, components and everything else, I believe it is a fantastic acquisition. Only for those who work with farm there, it's another story, I've already said. And one more consideration for the pros, there is this story of the filament behind the printer. But for that part there, for this problem, I'm already thinking of a little project here for the channel for us to make a filament magazine for this printer. Let's work on a cool little project which might help those buying a K1 or a K1 Max to help with this issue. Solutions exist. Print for easy access. Ali a support, a holding there for the filament and put it on her side and just point the Bolden tube to the side, make her pull, it's already solved. Use your own printer, okay? This part of the filament is behind for those who need to change it multiple times a day to print different parts. For customers it will be very inconvenient, okay? But besides these details there, yes. An excellent printer for you to obtain there to start working with 3D printing. See you in the next video. Thank you for following along until here. See you later.